Hello and welcome back to Everlasting Summer. No, I'm fine. But I can tell that you are. Well, maybe. Want to talk about it? Not really. In fact, there's nothing really to talk about. Then you don't really know why you're upset. Yeah, probably. Then why get upset in the first place? Slavya laughed. I guess I shouldn't. That's great. She hugged me even harder. Not cold now? I'm fine. Just tell me if you're not comfortable. Oh, it's okay. Like that time on the boat. My muscles, as if remembering that rowing competition, reminded me of it with a dull ache. It's totally different. Okay. She said slyly and raised her head a bit. So everything is fine? Yeah, it's perfect. I started to worry. Slavya surely wanted something from me. Wanted me to do or say something. But what? Are you sure? Yeah. Probably. Well then, have a good night. You too. After a while, she fell asleep, and I checked the clock out of the corner of my eye. It was only 1 AM, meaning that I still had to lie in this position until morning. I really wasn't that concerned about my arm going numb. Just being so close to Slavya in such a dangerous proximity, I couldn't sleep at all. Various thoughts were invading my head. Did she really consider this whole situation normal? Just when I was thinking how bad it would be if anybody found us, the door opened, the light switched on, and Olga rushed in. My heart jumped and stopped for a moment. "Semyon!" started the camp leader in a diabolically calm tone. "I've been searching for you everywhere, and you escaped from the forest ahead of time, didn't come to the cabin to sleep, and now you're seducing our best pioneer?" Slavya instantly woke up. She was staring at the camp leader with sleepy eyes for a few seconds, and instantly understood what was going on and jumped from the bed. "Olga, it's not what you think. I just fell ill and Semyon walked me here. And then I got cold and I told her to go back to his cabin." "Oh yeah, sure. So you're sick, are you?" "I am," answered Slavya humbly. "Then you have to get treatment." She watched me menacingly. "And you, get up and follow me." I understood that arguing wasn't an option, and I left the infirmary, not even looking at Slavya. We reached the square without saying a word, and Olga viciously looked over at me. "Time to go home. I need to have a serious talk with you." I felt awful the whole way, and the camp leader silently followed me. I think that once again I've gotten into a stupid situation, which will be perceived totally in the wrong by everybody. Nothing to discuss. Still, what if I was in Olga's place? 2 teenagers cuddling in the empty infirmary at night? It's hard to come up with any apologies. And the worst thing is that all these things keep happening to me. I always considered myself to have an analytical mind. However, I rarely got to put it into practice. We entered the cabin, and our camp leader continued her interrogation. "Would you care to explain yourself?" She seemed to have calmed down a bit. At least this side of her character was appealing. She was of course an impulsive woman, but she cooled down quickly. "Slavya already told you everything. You expect me to believe that?" "I can't force you to believe it. I'm not going to invent any excuses either, because that's the truth." She looked at me for some time, and then said, "Tomorrow I will decide what to do with you." The camp leader turned off the light, and I rolled myself in the blanket, not even bothering to undress, and turned to face the wall. Interesting. Why does she only blame me for what happened? I wasn't there alone, after all. Slavya is a role model pioneer, of course, but I didn't really need to shift the blame to her. I just felt too ashamed for getting into such an idiotic situation once again. Involuntarily, with no malicious thoughts and not expecting any trap, I could have lay there pitying myself for a long time, but fatigue overtook me, and I blanked out. So what are we up to now? Day 6? Day 7? Day 6, okay. Interesting. I didn't sleep well. I kept waking up for a minute or two and then dropping off again. And I didn't dream much, just some grotesque images forgotten by morning. Olga woke me up. "Wake up already." I rubbed my eyes and looked at her questioningly. "Oh, what time is it?" "Late enough." My whole body ached and my head was heavy like a bowling ball. "Pull yourself together and go wash up, right now." I stood up obediently, took out my toiletry bag and went outside. Didn't want to talk to the camp leader at that moment. A lecture was clearly coming. A hard one. But I'd better put it off as much as I can. After all, I always did things that way. Trying not to fall asleep on my feet, I somehow made it to the wash basins, and the cold water knocked some sense into me. Maybe I should pay Slavya a visit. I still have some time left. Yeah, just to tell her that I'm sorry. On the other hand, why should I justify myself? It was her idea. And what did I do wrong? Besides once again getting myself into a silly situation where the odds were against me. I took a deep breath and went back to Olga's cabin, with the firm intention of proving myself innocent, or at least showing that I'll stand my ground. But the room was empty. I sat on the bed, dropped my face into my hands. I need to come up with an excuse. Now. Preferably a nice, believable excuse. If she won't believe the truth. Well, that's not surprising. If I was her, I wouldn't have believed it either. Nothing worthwhile was coming to me, and I was just sitting there, gazing at the sunrise. The door swung silently open, and the camp leader came into the room. Olga, I'd still like to explain to you that... No need. I looked at her, surprised. I understand everything. So you do understand that it wasn't what it looked like? Why? It looked exactly like what it was. I don't want to condemn either you or Slavya. I understand everything. Puberty, hormones, all that kind of stuff. I sighed tiredly and laid my head down on my hands. Oh, what do I need to say to make you believe me? Nothing. I said it already. I understand everything. Oh, you don't understand a thing. I muttered under my breath. Okay, head over to lineup. I stood up and I dragged myself lazily along with her. Could I at least pay her a visit? Of course not. The camp leader looked at me with such surprise, as if my question had been something completely inappropriate. I've already warned the nurse not to let you in. Why? Am I not allowed to know how she is at least? Well, it looks like Slavya is actually sick. I didn't manage to ask how serious it was, as we had reached the square already. Go, take your place. I took a place next to Electronic. So, what happened yesterday? He whispered to me. What are you talking about? Well, you suddenly disappeared. Nothing special. Telling everything to the entire camp was absolutely the last thing that I wanted. After all, if even the camp leader got us wrong, then what would the others think? Though I've already started to think that maybe it wasn't entirely wrong? The entire lineup consisted of a roll call and an announcement that the shower room is closed today for repair. Finally, the pioneers ran for breakfast chatting happily, and I miserably followed them. Frankly speaking, I wasn't in the mood for eating at all. After hanging around near the canteen doors for a while, I just turned around and headed away. I don't know how it turned out that way, but eventually the infirmary appeared from nowhere in front of me. Looks like my autopilot just kicked in. I stared at the door in a total loss. Oh, they wouldn't let me in anyway. What can I do now? Should I wait for Olga's sentence, if it ever comes? Or should I wait until everybody in the camp knows? That's even worse. Wicked glances from everywhere, the alienation. That's what'll happen for sure. Now, I haven't done anything wrong. But in the enclosed circle of this bizarre society, such behaviour would be treated, if not as sin, then as a serious deviation for sure. And that means I've already got nothing to lose. I knocked without hesitation. Just a moment. I pulled the doorknob, but the door wouldn't open. Locked. In a few moments, I heard the key turning in the keyhole, and the nurse appeared. Good morning, Pioneer. Hi, I answered confidently. Well, you know that you're not allowed in here. Well, I do. But if you'd... Nah, that's not quite the way things work, she said playfully. A camp leader's order is an order, after all. If you ask me personally, I don't find anything immoral about your behaviour, but... Olga? Maybe I can do something. No, you can't. I looked at her angrily, turned around, and walked away without theatrical slowness. I didn't know what to do next. I just pressed on forward, punching the trees that stood in my way. Now what did those poor trees ever do to you? I recovered from this burst of rage, only when my hands were hurting badly and my lips were bitten until they bled. And the most interesting thing is that all my unbelievable awakening in an unknown pioneer camp has turned to the most trivial life drama. A drama as stupid as my entire existence. Yet again, I did something wrong, thought something wrong, and they got it all wrong. Oh fine, I'll just let everything be. Nobody was near the canteen. I sighed in relief, took a place in the farthest corner, hoping that no one would see me. Somehow, stuffing my breakfast in, I was about to leave already when Miku dashed up to my table. "Oh, good morning, Semyon. I can't have overslept today. Can I take a place here next to you?" She sat down straight away. "Oh, I'm kind of leaving already." "Is it true that you and Slavya, like that? Well, you know what I'm talking about." She stared at me closely, blinking her eyes. "Who told you that?" No one would know, except the rumours one would expect the rumours to spread fast, but not that fast. I started to slowly go into rage mode. "I heard it from Xenia, and she probably heard it from Cheesekov, and he heard it from Olga, but I don't want you to misunderstand me. It's not my business, but if you don't want to, then don't answer, but if it's not a secret—" "You're right. I don't want to answer." I stood up quickly and headed towards the exit. It was a hot day, and this amplified my anger, since I don't like the heat. Right now, though, pretty much anything could have driven me out of my wits, but I had to make up my mind of how to conduct myself. I didn't want to run into anyone, so I went into the forest where I could at least think calmly. Having stopped in the glade, I sat on a stump, took a stick, and started to poke at the ground with it. If there's nothing that's up to me, all I can do is simply wait. But what can I do? Assault the infirmary? Even if I succeed, what comes next? Try to bring Olga to her senses? That's hardly possible. Funnily enough, this whole enigma turned into a very simple everyday situation. In fact, if it was happening in my world, there'd have been no problems at all. Oh, come on, what's the problem? Even if I did sleep with a girl, who cares? Even if I was actually 17, then nothing terrible would happen anyway. It'd be slightly more awkward, but still tolerable. And now what? Apparently I'm not the master of my fate. Was I ever? Is there anything at all that was up to me in my entire life? Have I ever reached any peak that I was seeking? And now once I've reached one, I can't hold my ground. Maybe I was just a spectator from the very beginning. My mystical appearance in this camp, all the local residents, all the events that had happened to me. Well, that's just some weird game, and I'm only a pawn. Well, if that's so, then I will still play out my role to my best. I got up and headed to camp, prepared to take no prisoners. The plan wasn't completely finished in my head, but I'd made up my mind already. There was no one at the camp leader's cabin, and I rummaged through the cabinets and packing up a sleeping bag, my winter clothes, a flashlight, and a few other garments that I found. I came outside and immediately ran straight into Elisa. "Going for a hike?" "Yeah, for a hike," I reassured her. "Well, take care." She gave me a sly smile and went on her way. I hastened my steps to the infirmary. The nurse is human too in the end, and eventually she'll go for lunch. I hid in the bushes and waited. Time flew by fast. My thoughts have settled and I had a firm decision. I haven't thought my plan up beyond its first steps, but I simply don't care. The most important thing is that I act the way I think is appropriate, and whatever happens next, let it happen. At last the nurse came out of the infirmary. She looked around and, noticing no danger, locked the infirmary with a key and quickly went towards the canteen. As she went round the corner, I got to the window in a few bounds and started to hectically knock on it. Slavya showed up soon. "Semyon, what are you doing here? You're not allowed to." "How are you feeling?" "I'm fine, but Olga told me to stay in here for another day." "She told me something completely different." "Okay, get out," I said with confidence. "What are you talking about? What for?" She asked fearfully. "Get out now, I'll explain everything later." She looked at me closely for a while, and then opened the window without further argument. I helped her jump down to the ground. "Okay, what next? Let's go." I grabbed her hand and made my way into the forest. Slavya stopped a few minutes later. "Semyon, where are we going?" "What's wrong? Did you think everything was right the way it was?" "No, I don't, but it'll be worse this way." "Why?" "We have to act in the way that we think is correct." "Well, what happens next?" I kind of haven't thought about it yet. But every step of my plan has gone pretty well up until now, but I wasn't keen on thinking even one step ahead. Take a look. I opened the bag and showed her the things I'd taken from the camp leader's cabin. "And?" Slavya looked at me inquiringly. "I don't know. We'll stay in the forest for a while. Show them that our opinion matters." "Well, that's stupid and childish." "Well, if you don't want to." She gave me a lamentable look. "I'll do as you say." And those words gave me the creeps. As you say. Nobody ever said anything like that to me. In any case, I think it's the best decision for now. Alright. Personally, I'd say it's a remarkably foolish decision. You're going off into the forest with a guy with no eyes. Seriously, he has got the worst case of Youngblood's disease I have ever seen. I laid the sleeping bag on the ground and we sat on it. So what are we going to do? I don't know. I've never been so close to utter failure. Now, I wasn't questioning my choice, but indeed I really did have no idea what to do next. What would you suggest? Well, it would be nice to have something to eat. Have you brought anything with you? And that was exactly what I'd forgotten. No, I haven't, I replied slowly. Well, that's fine. We kept sitting in silence. I wonder when they will look for us. Though if they do, they're unlikely to succeed. The forest is big enough. But food? Oh, by the evening I'll get hungry too. Okay, stay here. I'll be right back. Where are you going? To get some food. Maybe we should go together? No, I'll be right back. I headed back into the camp at a rapid pace, leaving Slavya alone in the glade. I'm absolutely certain she won't go anywhere and will wait for me. I wish I was as certain that I'll remember the way back as well. Even if they hadn't started to look for both of us yet, then surely they'd have found out that Slavya is missing, so I have to move carefully and try not to get noticed. In general, every single pioneer was a threat now. Not only those who knew me, such an obvious kidnapping will surely be known to everyone in no time. And while getting to the canteen in a few sprints was not hard at all, I had no idea what to do next. It's not like I can walk in there as if nothing happened. Are you hiding it there? I almost jumped out of my skin. Uliana was standing behind me. Getting hungry? She stared at me. Come on, why so quiet? I was tongue-tied for a moment and I couldn't think of an answer. So, why have you come? Let's be honest with her. Oh, really? Yeah, really. Okay, I'll be right back. Much to my surprise, Uliana didn't ask any awkward questions. In the blink of an eye, she zipped out of sight through the doors of the canteen. I was wondering whether I should trust her and wait or flee before she returned with backup. However, Uliana interrupted my doubts quickly as she reappeared in a couple of minutes with a plastic bag in her hands. Here you go! The bag was full of buns and had a few packs of kefir in it. But why? Well, because it's brave and cool. She smiled shyly. Best regards to Slavya! Uliana waved goodbye and ran away. I stood there for some time in confusion, and then went back to the forest. It was completely unlike Uliana, but, well, frankly speaking, I was thankful for her. In the end, I couldn't get the food by myself during the day without getting into trouble. Upon getting back to the glade, I found Slavya sitting on the sleeping bag in the exact same pose. Here. I gave the bag to her. You got it so fast, she said excitedly. Well, I found some help. Slavya gave me a questioning look, but I didn't go into details. We ate busily without saying a word, and I sighed with satisfaction in the end. Good. Really good. Yeah, agreed Slavya. So what are we going to do now? Maybe you have some suggestions? About what? Well, at least how to deal with the camp leader. I don't know. And are you sure? Yes, I am, I interrupted her. This is an act of protest, after all. She must be aware that she can't order me. I stuttered. Order us around. I feel like I've said something stupid. Even if I was indeed Olga's errand boy, Slavya was... You're funny. She gave me a cute smile. We could just go and talk with her. But if you want to sit here and wait, I'm fine with it. I tried to talk to her. Are you sure you did it the right way? Well, what is the right way? To be honest, I didn't know the answer. Such awkward talks were something of an insurmountable task for me. I bet if I knew how to deal with such cases, things would go another way. Of course, since I was afraid and blaming myself, there was no chance to be confident. I don't know. Slavya burst into laughter. What? Nothing. I just feel like a princess who was saved from the evil witch's castle by Prince Charming. I looked at her carefully. While all of that sounded quite romantic, I thought what she'd said was absolutely nonsense. But generally, Olga was an evil witch. It did kind of make some sense. Yeah, the similarity is definitely there. I said it, spelling out every word. And princesses are given no choice in such cases usually, Slavya continued in a cryptic tone. Given no choice? Well, that's impossible. It's me who has no choice here. Just sit and wait until I get back to my reality by some miraculous chance. Or does Slavya have anything in common with me? She's a role model pioneer, hardworking, beautiful. She has hundreds, if not thousands, of options. No, probably this is the moment that I've been dreaming about all my life. With such an unreachable girl as Slavya, not only sitting next to me, speaking and laughing, but completely depending on me. But is that a good thing or a bad thing? And what should I do next? There were more questions than answers. When it's hard enough to make a decision about my own life, take responsibility for my own actions, how could I do that for both of us? Before now, I'd kept myself distanced from such problems, in the hopes of everything resolving on its own, without my input. But I couldn't act that way now, and not even because of the fact that heaven only knows where and what time it was. You know, I could be wrong. Slavya looked at me inquiringly. We won't achieve anything by just sitting here. And it's not just that, it's stupid and childish and... You were right. And what should we do then? Let's go. We got up, and I took the sleeping bag and headed to the camp, holding Slavya by the hand. Soon we came to the square, where Olga was standing as if she was waiting for us. "Long time no see," she said angrily. "Do you have something to say to excuse yourself?" I have nothing to justify myself for. We have no reason to justify ourselves, I replied obnoxiously. "Oh, really? Okay then, so you think all this is normal? Fine." She paused for a few moments and turned to Slavya. "Go to your cabin. I understand that you are not the one to blame." Slavya didn't move an inch. She just lowered her eyes and held my hand even more tightly. "Slavya!" As you can see, she doesn't want to. "What did you say to seduce her?" "Oh my God, I said nothing!" I started losing my cool. "Why do you think we've done something wrong? We haven't done anything. At all." "As if I haven't seen it," she grinned. "So what have you seen?" She paused, but continued a second later in the same tone. "I've seen enough." "Oh wow, you are so good at drawing conclusions. Getting a job in the secret police?" "Stop it with your rudeness." "I didn't even think of starting it," I said sarcastically. "Okay, your time is up and I'm not willing to continue this pointless argument. You are grounded until the end of the session." "Oh really? How are you going to manage that?" "I'll lock you down in the cabin." "And what if I object?" Olga gave me a surprised look. It's just now that I had realised that a crowd was gathering around us. I could spot Lena, Alicia, Ulyana in the crowd. "And what do you mean by object?" said the camp leader slowly. "I meant exactly what I said." "But you can't, a true pioneer." "Well, I guess that means I'm a false one." Olga paused as if she was pulling herself together. "You think I can't force you? And how exactly would you do that?" I laughed emphatically. Ignoring the various mystical forces that I was at least concerned about right now, the camp leader had no idea about enforcing anything. "You know what?" "What?" It looked like Olga already understood that she'd lost, but couldn't admit her defeat because of her pride and her position of eldest and wisest in the camp. Commonwealth was a youth division of the Communist Party, and young people who didn't join it generally were treated as outcasts in society, okay? I'll send a report to your school. You won't be accepted into the Commonwealth. You won't be able to join the party. I had no way to respond against such serious threats. "Accept it. You have no choice anyway." Slavya, who had kept silence until now, intervened in the matter. "Olga, why do you assume you're right from the start? Why is Semyon to blame for everything? What's so special about what's happened? What have we done wrong? Are you even sure what you're blaming us for? And if it was anyone other than me standing here, would you act the same way?" "Slavya, you should know that that's the point. I know everything. I know you. I know that Semyon hasn't done anything wrong, and I know that you're prejudiced against it without any clear reason why, even though he's been trying his best. Yes, it looks awkward at times, but I know he puts all his energy and heart into it, and you're going to blame him just because he's the way he is." I was charmed by Slavya's monologue, listening to it without really getting whether she was praising me, declaring facts, or stating her opinion, which was probably prejudiced. I guess her exact words flew over me. Just the melody of her voice was enough for me. It hypnotised, carried me away from this sick woman and the stupid pioneer camp, while calming and healing the wounds of my soul. "Okay, I don't know what to do with you anymore." Olga calmed down a bit. "But don't think that I approve of your behaviour." What the hell happened to her voice there? She turned away, sliced through the crowd, and headed to her cabin. I expected a storm of applause like in American movies, but the crowd started to dissolve quickly as the show came to an end. And Oldana just winked at me shyly. Well, you know, we kind of overdid it. I looked at Slavya, and she was smiling. No, not at all. I'd be arguing with her until late at night. You nailed it right and clear. I wouldn't get the right words like that even if I had a week to think. Oh, come on. What? It's the simple truth, not a trace of lies or flattery. She gazed into my eyes and burst out laughing. I just said the first thing that came to my mind, and that's how it turned out. Well, your first thought was the right one. That's how the saying goes. Yeah, I guess it is. I just noticed now that we were still holding each other by the hand. After feeling a bit awkward, I tried to pull my hand free, but Slavya didn't let me. And that gave me the chills for a second. Where will we go? I had no desire to go back to my cabin. Strictly speaking, I didn't want to stay in the camp at all. What would you say if I suggested we return to the forest? Slavya looked at me with surprise. Well, you know, it's just sometimes... Okay, let's go. I wasn't expecting such a quick response, and I had no idea how to finish my sentence. I was just going to tell her about a feeling I get sometimes when you want to go somewhere outside your comfort zone. At least for a while, for, a couple of hours. I used to do it quite often, visiting foreign districts, neighbouring cities. New places and sceneries calm my heart and help to realise that the world's not limited by my apartment walls or the daily route to university or to the workplace. Unless there are people who are doing better or worse than me. And so my typical problems are not as bad as they appear to be. I suddenly smiled. What? Nothing, just remembered. Never mind, let's go. We headed to the forest, still holding hands. Eventually, we came to a glade, probably the one where we sat an hour ago, or it could be a different one, as I couldn't distinguish one from another. Here? Slavya gave me a questioning look. No, let's go further. Okay. After another half hour of wandering through the forest, we came to a small lake. Ah, what a nice place. You're right. Slavya smiled enigmatically. Then I suggest we stop here. Nice place. I put the sleeping bag on the ground and sat on it, and Slavya did the same. And what are we going to do? I don't know. It was your idea to go into the forest. Yes, mine. I had to make a decision once again. Well, I had absolutely no idea what we could do. We could talk, for example, but what about... Oh, come on, don't get so anxious. Slavya laughed. I'm not. I can see you are. Well, it's just because... It's fine. As you say. I sighed and stared at the ground. Maybe you can tell me about yourself. Nothing really to talk about. It's impossible there could be nothing of interest in a person's life at all. How so? I'm an example of that. You just... She hesitated. Could it be that you're not telling me something? Like what? I don't know. Like you're hiding something from me. Why would I? How would I know? You'd know better. Well, I don't... You said it like... How? Not right. Slavya laughed again. I'm sure that anyone but her wouldn't be so calm here. Okay, so what do you want me to talk about? Well, tell me about yourself. Anything interesting that's happened in your life? Right now, I was definitely sure that there was nothing interesting in my life at all. Okay, let me think. I made a smart face. Well, when I was a kid, like 5, maybe 6 years old, I guess, there was a small hut near my family's country house. Solid one, made from wooden boards, tar paper roof so it could be used as a bomb shelter in case of war. So one day I was sitting on top of it with somebody and suddenly fell off. And there were these beds of strawberries behind it. And during the split seconds I was falling, I thought, that's it. The Grim Reaper's come for me. My entire life ran through my eyes. Life just 6 years long, but still. So I fell onto those beds, and obviously I didn't feel anything as there was plenty of soft ground there. So that's the story. Slavya laughed. But that's so silly. I didn't think so at the time. And what about now? I don't know. I guess it is. Fine. Tell me something else. You'll call that silly too. No, I won't. I started thinking again. And that to me seems like a pretty reasonable point to end this video. So, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next part.